warrior woman, indigenous mother. I actually want to let you know on a personal level, my mother is Native, and she has a lot of struggles that she's experienced. So I would be remiss to start out if I'm asking you to talk about yourself. I want you to first talk about the struggles that our people, the indigenous people, the Native people have gone through in this country and relate it to your history, your personal history. Can you do that for us?
Yes, we start off by saying, it's not really 500 years. That's the way the white man lies, It's only been like maybe 200 or something, But we're living in reservations, communities that are called like concentration camps, because they herd us into it like cattle, So there was a lot of similarities with the brown and the black and the red of how the white man tortured us, It was a way of life to be treated like an animal, and that's what he did in all his time that he was here. And Khalid started the new Black Panther, and so I was like, I wanted to talk to him about how he felt when he was pushed out of the nation, and so I tracked him down at UCLA, and stuff like that, and the whole struggle part, it broke his heart, you know what I mean? He was so close to the nation, and it was sad. It was sad to see a man so strong to be broken like that, And so I follow people that are in the struggle, that, and just like when Kwame Ture passed away, I stayed with All African People's Revolutionary Party for a while, just to help them.
Well, I want to talk to you about, since she's gravitating to this new Black Panthers, and I love that, because you know what? The Native American people and the African American people have always had unity. I want you to talk to us about how they're not, people see them as separate right now. But I know from what my mom has told me, there were Native American people picking cotton. Can you talk to us a little history about that part of the unity that goes way back? Can you talk to us about that?
The history is that there was never no borders, and that the black community had come on boats. That was like before the white man was even here, And then when they were here, when they brought them over to be slaves, some of them ran to the Indian community, and some of them are raised there. There's even, like when the white man started coming here, when they started making burials and names, you'll see African names of people there. And a lot of the indigenous people would always call them grandpa, uncle, or whatever. They didn't say that they were black. That was part of their family, And there's always been that unity. But I think the more we become assimilated into the white man's system, that's when we become enemies, and they divide the colors, and stuff. Yeah, they divide us, and if they don't divide us, they kill us. And when we try to unite, they kill our neighbors.
Yeah, isn't the colonizer known for putting borders and boundaries?
Right, and so that's why in our teaching is that the wind does not stop in South Dakota, so the indigenous across the border of Mexico or Texas, those are still indigenous people. And so there's indigenous people way before they even called us black or Indians,
Right,
so.
Right. So what do you identify as? Do you say Aboriginal, Native, Indian, and what is your tribe? Can you
Dakota is the tribe.
You're the Lakota?
Dakota. It's really the Metawankintuans, okay, and so it's like my husband always says that's who we are, He doesn't like to be called Indian. He never, so it took us, because we've been educated through the white man's system, to detox ourselves from their way of life. That's why I was saying when we went to North Africa, we were invited by Kwame Ture to go meet Gaddafi. And when Gaddafi wrote a book called Third Universal Theory, and that breaks down how we've been programmed within the system. To read it, I had to read it a couple of times because we're brainwashed, and we don't realize that we're brainwashed, and we don't even know that we're killing ourselves, and then they make us, kill each other. So it's like all this gang, warfare and stuff like that. We've taken and cleaned up people that were in the what would you call them, in gangs, and we showed them who the real enemy is.
Right. And you know, when you talk about the colonizer, the white man, programming us, making us assimilate, can you give us some history about what you know, or educate the people on the Indian schools, what they did to the children with our original people?
They took the children away from they just pick them up and took them to the boarding schools, which were another state away. These kids wanted to go back home. They were homesick, and so they would try to go home, walk home, and they would die. And so that's when they brought in powwows. Powwows were brought by the church to keep them occupied. They're not like real words that because these were children that were learning this, so this wasn't the true language of them.
Wow,
but
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so that's why people don't understand. They go, why don't you go? Because,
so powwows are, it's like a Christian program. Powwows aren't really indigenous.
Right, and so now they're really coming out because people were raped, people, were killed. So they were terrorized, and a lot of the people are still going through shock.
Right.
There's still people that went into boarding schools and never came out right, and then they wonder why there's so many alcoholics on the reservation.
And so much suicide.
And then the youth started doing, in groups, committing suicide, and nobody talks about it, nobody talks about, so it's all institutional racism and killing within the system. This, I don't see how could anybody even work within the system. So, so it just...
Wow, you really educated me right now. And hearing that, because right now you hear people, they say, oh, go to the powwow. It has nothing to do with the actual original people. It's more of a program put on them.
Yeah, just like the reservation. That wasn't a place that they went. They went there and they starved them. And it was the white people had those stores, they would, have food for the Indians, but they were never given to the Indians.
I have a question for you, warrior woman. The African Americans that's here in America, would you say that they are natives, or would you say they are Africans? From which land? Because there's a debate going on right now where they are saying that the African Americans are the true natives that was here, and they're not African. And we be arguing with them like, what is you talking about, man?
One of the elder Hopi, Thomas Banyaka, he says all the races were together here at once, and they all split. Everybody else came back except for the white man. They're still waiting for the white man to come back and realize who he is. Once you come back, oh yeah, you're yes, we are indigenous, but we come in all colors. Our babies come out all colors, So I says, we don't need the white man for anything. We even have white children, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's nothing that they can offer us as indigenous people.
What was it like growing up for you?
For me, I didn't have it as bad as my husband and those guys going to boarding schools and stuff. But I was going through the educational system when it kind of woke me up of racism and discrimination and what they were doing to the people. Because, they sterilized us. Even in the 70s and 60s, they sterilized us. What right do they have to do that to our body? And even right now, they're really talking about abortions and stuff. What right do they have? There was medicine for women to take to release that if they couldn't have children, and stuff like that. But like I said, people were in concentration camps, and we're kind of the ones that were relocated into the cities, So it's a way to get the Indians off so that they can mine the reservation. The 370 some reservations, 75 to 90% natural resources is underneath there. So in 78 we were walking to expose that. And after we, were exposing it, that's when they brought the casinos. The casinos run by the United States government. It's the gaming, that's what it's about. So they keep continuing to sterilize us, but yet with all this money, the ones that are in charge are just filling their pockets up, and they're diluting, the people, because they have names like Prescott, Columbus. And so who's the one that makes those blankets, Pendletons and them that are related to what's his name, Bush's
Prescott.
Prescott, yeah.
I remember you being on stage and saying something that really hit home for me. You're a warrior, yes, and you are ready to fight, but you also spoke about spirituality. You said your husband is going through a transition and he's preparing himself.
Yeah, he's
Can
80.
you talk to us about that?
He's 80-some. In a traditional way, as a warrior, you have to know your death song. You have to know your indigenous name. You have to know your, your death song. A lot of us, coming back home, the longest walk in '78, there was a song, and that was going to be our death song. And so when you start singing your death song, is you're calling the relations to open the door for you to go in, because it's not death like in pain and all this. You're just going into another realm. You're just going into the next room, So a lot of us are happy to go home to our relatives, and see all our friends and families. And that's why when I greet you, I say all my relations, mi tako yape, which means your relations, but it just doesn't mean all human form. It means, ants, yeah.
I love it. So,
yeah. They call them Navajo, but their last name is Dene, and they're starting to relocate them because they want the coal. It goes back to the Kid Carson days when they wanted to take that land. So they figured, they have to, program them to like the white man's world, leave the land, and live in the cities and stuff.
Like gentrification.
Yeah.
Same concept. They don't change their ways. They just use different things to different people. So you are wearing turquoise. I know that's a very spiritual. If you don't mind me talking to you about spiritual things, I know you're a warrior woman, but you're a native. I want to say queen, but I don't know if that's what do you call yourself as a chief? Not a chief, but
just
the
warrior
head woman.
They would call us medicine people.
Medicine woman.
But we don't like those terms.
Oh, okay. Well,
so we're just like guides or teachers.
Okay.
My husband says teacher.
You're a wise woman.
Yeah.
So as a warrior woman and a spiritual wise woman, can you speak to us about the jewelry you have on, and especially the turquoise, the energy of it?
When we went in '86 to Big Mountain to defend them, we took guns to defend these elders because they're going to have to go through us before they go and take our elders. Then we had to go to defend them. And so white people wanted to help us. And they says, okay, if you white people want to help us, we're the first line of defense. You come in front of us with your flowers and hippie stuff. You know what I mean? You're going to go down first if you want, to come and protect these elders, and stuff. So these are gifts they give me because my hair is Dakota, the braids, but I had to cut up here because the cops are, undercover agents and stuff. They're always trying to kill me, right? And so they pushed me off the road. And so my head, I'd always hurt, so I cut it. It wasn't my hair that was pulling down, yeah. So I've been poisoned, shot at, driven off the road. That's why it says revolutionary is not a game. It's a reality, and you live it. Like I said, we had a hard time. Malik had a hard time coming here. My plane was transferred like 3 times. They said I was on standby, So we know when we travel in their worlds. So it's like, I separated 30 years ago. On some land, somebody wanted to give us some land to because they wanted to move to their own reservation, so they left the land there, and so we opened it up 30 years ago for a retreat for revolutionary people. So Kwame Ture people came. Khalid was gonna come, but then they killed him. So it's like they don't want to see the unity. They don't want to see us as one. Yeah. Because we outnumber them.
That's power.
Yeah.
They don't want to see the natives and the African Americans come together, and also the Hispanics to the Latinos.
Yeah.
So when you are doing your work as a warrior, because I just heard you say that they canceled your flight to.
I went to.
Do you have to have any other security? I know you're what we would call, you're definitely a warrior, but do you have any type of security?
My son usually does my security, but they were having a ceremony, so he had to stay back, and stuff like that. And to me, my husband worries, because one time I went to Africa, to Libya with Khalid, and then they split us up, and then they intercepted me at the airport, and so they pulled my ticket out when I came back from Libya, and they'd have people just walking by saying, "Oh, she was with Gaddafi for 2 weeks," and I'm like, geez, So I was like, I went on the second floor at the airport, and I go, what am I gonna do? And I got my phone, I was just mad, and I threw it down, and so then they called the police, and stuff, and they says, no, it's a forged ticket, and they know that you're tired, because how many 18 hours on a plane and stuff, so they mess with your mind when you come out, But I had to call one of Kwame's group member, to pick me up. There's other things, but I don't really like to talk about it,
Yes, I understand. So I would like to ask you if you would speak to me a little bit, or us, about Gaddafi. Like, when you met him, I know what America says about him. Oh, he was he's a horrible person. He's against us, but he was doing good, and he was working with people like you and me.
Yeah.
Talk to the people about the true man, the true leader, and what you knew about him.
Yeah. He opened up his country to us where we could have like a conference of indigenous. We're stating that we wanted to leave the UN, since we never had a voice or a seat at the UN. So we were going to use Libya as our united, and so, and I said, just reading about what he has, and he says, and plus, because of the real true Indians, there's only a small portion. There's a lot of half-breeds and no-breeds, that are trying to pretend that they're indigenous. That's why they're waiting for
$5 ones.
Yeah, like they're waiting for people like my husband to die off, so that they don't have anybody who has the language, the ceremonies, and stuff like that. They could imitate the sweat lodge, and they can imitate the pipe, and they can buy themselves a pipe, but there's a spiritual value and power that they'll never get,
With Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, did he ever visit the reservations? You don't call them I don't want to be offensive, so excuse me if I use any type of wrong language. educate me and correct me now.
Yeah, the people call them reserves and res and stuff, but you know, for people, you know, we're not in no big deal about the words.
Did any of the Panthers go to the res with you, or the reservation, or to visit, or to speak ever?
Well, what was happening, he was going to. So was Kwame Ture. They were coming to the land. We did get Fred Hampton Jr. on the land, you know. So, because it's a revolutionary camp, all revolutionary people. This way, when we have our meeting and stuff, it's like we lock that gate and we are the nation there, you know. So you treat each other as brothers and sisters and stuff. So there, you know, if you have time to think bad and fight, you know, then you can't be in a spiritual mode. Just once you cross, you're in a sovereign land. Sovereign meaning before the white man was here, even going back to the grandfather thing, is before they even made treaties, because treaties are made with sovereign and foreign people, you know. So it's like it was the indigenous, you know. So they never respected any of the treaties anyway.
Wow. Yeah. So you did have Fred Hampton Jr. come in, and you planned on having the Kwame Ture and Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad.
Right.
They didn't make it.
No, they killed them before they could.
So they assassinated them.
Yeah.
So for you, the way you're taught, I just want to let you know, this is a way of life for you.
Yeah.
But for me, it's so jarring to just see a petite woman, strong, but for me, it's just like, it's nothing to you. You're so used to it. How do you do that? I mean, how? Because help others out there. You've got a lot of strength, and I mean, there's most people that would be terrified.
Well, I started in the
pushes
struggle in the movement for the indigenous people since I was 15. I'm 68 years old now.
Wow.
So I said I went through my period and I went through menopause in the struggle.
Wow.
You know, so it's just
15.
yeah. And so, you know, now it's a way of life.
How did you get in at 15? Tell us the story, if you can let us know. What happened? Like, did someone come to you? Did you go somewhere? How did you get involved?
Just seeing how the people were treated, you know, and then to read, you know, that it's been going down for a long time. So it's mostly just finding yourself, you know, and still finding yourself, you know, because we have to prepare that spiritual walk, you know, because I seen when Khalid was trying to build this, you know, and I seen Malik, and like I said, they were young men, you know. Now they're older men, but they grow, and like he says, they're cubs. So it's like I go, yeah, but you know, I've been waiting 10 years for them to have a meeting after Khalid died, you know, or made his transition to contact us as indigenous, you know. Even when they went and did a protest, I guess at that trade towers, you know. I said, but you know, that's Indian land, you know, let's get together and talk about that, you know, but then they want to, I think it's a white man's way of dividing us, you know.
Definitely.
Being indigenous is a spiritual value. It's a way of life. There's no way that you can be in charge of the land if the ceremony says it belongs to the Creator. We're just caretakers. So how could we ever claim ownership? And they even teach us that you don't own anything. It all, you know. So how can I say no? It's mine. It's hers. Okay, well, but when you come, are you going to still have the same value system? Are you going to rape the Mother Earth for gold and timber? And the Big Mountain ended up after the uranium. They found blue diamonds. So they really had to move the grandmas out. So now they're waiting for the grandmas to all die, you know, and then for us as people in the city, trying to educate the ones in the city, when we go out, we give them more information of what's inside the reservation. So they knew that they needed technology to brainwash the youth into all these little game things that are really out there now. You know, so you know, it's just been through the years. They killed Anime Akwash. Leonard Peltier is doing over 40-some years. So hanging out with the black community, when they say Mumia, they say Peltier. So that's part of us. You know, it's just like hooking Fred Hampton with one of Peltier's nephews, you know, who's also a rapper. So I just try to connect the dots from LA and San Francisco and LA. We're in the middle, and we're in the mountains, and so we use it like a middle point, you know. And when Khalid, before they killed him, he wanted to make that, you know, East Coast and West Coast unity
together.
Yeah.
Is there a name of your land?
Yeah, it was called Red Wind because of because there was fake Indians that had it, so the hot air. So they called it Red Wind. But we changed it to Oyate, which means the people's land. Oyate, yeah.
It means the people's?
It means the people's nation, the people's land. So,
love it.
Yeah.
Oyate. So I want to know if you could let us give us an idea. How many Native people are really involved in the movement like you? I mean, you're the head of it from what I see. You're spearheading it. But how many Native people are actually involved? Are there many?
There is. I mean, there was a big surge of Indians during that one. What was it called? Something Rock.
With the water.
Yeah, right.
What was that? I forgot. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Standing Rock.
Standing Rock. Yeah. So there was a big surge.
Yeah. So a lot of people came out. Even white people were out there, you know. And then it was you know. So there was you know, people started coming. You know, but we're getting too old to travel, you know, and we're not traveling without the guns. You know,
And they're stopping us from doing that.
Yeah.
You got to drive if you're going to.
In LA, years ago, they were trying to collect the guns. They were telling all the little kids, bring your parents' guns in and we'll give you a candy or a bike or something. And people were doing that, you know.
You know, when you spoke about white people, how do you feel about that as an indigenous, aboriginal, native woman and knowing the history of the colonizer, what they've done? How do you, when a white person comes to you, and I know you've accepted some, because it's not about color. If they're all aligned with your beliefs and your struggle and your
Redwood doesn't allow white people on the land, and
Talk
we
to us
don't.
about that. Why is it? Tell us. I want to know.
Why would you sleep with the enemy and have the enemy's children?
Oh, wow.
And then you're going to raise it in the enemy way of life. So, you know, even homosexuality, it was like a...
So you're radical.
Yeah, I guess you would say that. But I just try to be traditional, you know, like talking about the powwows, because everybody's into the powwows. There's big money in these dancers going around, you know, and everything's just to assimilate the Indians, because they need that resources, and they're destroying the land by drilling for all the stuff, you know.
Because not to interrupt you, but I'm new, fairly new with what I see about the new Black Panther Party. Am I wrong to say that it's like I've seen other people besides I've seen white people, they don't get involved with it at all? Can you answer that for me or no?
I've yet
are there
to
any
see
white people
involved in the new Black Panther?
Yeah, do they ever try to join? Or
I've never seen that, because Khalid was against the white people in terms of that they're the devil.
Yes.
And homosexuality, you know. He would always make that joke about, what's worse, seeing, a black man dressed like a woman or something like that.
Right.
He'd make a joke of
okay.
it.
I'm glad, because I was just asking a warrior woman about, I can't have any more of those right now. Warrior woman about if there are any white people ever tried to get in or that are a part of the Black Panther, the new Black Panthers.
Oh, good. You should have asked them.
No, go ahead.
Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad. What can you tell us about how did you meet Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad? And give us a little bit about him.
So, yes.
We were going, my husband had met Farrakhan after, when he was starting up the Nation of Islam. And so there was like a unity between the Indians and Farrakhan, and they both did a marriage with an Indian lady, and the one, what's her name, Najaha, the baby of Juanetta, who was one of the writers in the Final Call. She was married to this guy named Cash. Okay, and then they had it be, Farrakhan and Ernie did this double ceremony for them. And so that's how Ernie, my husband, met Farrakhan. But Khalid, we met him through traveling to Libya. You know, we would see each other just passing by, because he was going under for Farrakhan, and him and Akbar would be traveling to Libya and stuff like that. So, and so, when they kicked him out of the nation, I wanted to hook up with him, so I waited till he got to UCLA in LA, and so then we hooked up, and I just wanted to know how it felt. I says, what if I ever left my husband? And sometimes I get mad at my husband, and I said, I'd rather go out there, take my chances. Just a joke. So anyway, I wanted to meet him, and I saw what they did to him, by leaving, he was going to give his life. It's like some guy that broke up with his girlfriend, they're so heartbroken, and I just couldn't believe, because I go, what if I leave my husband? Are people going to take my husband's side, or are they going to take my side? Because he was married before, but, it was 32 years before I married my husband, because I didn't believe in marriage. It was a white man's piece of paper for legal prostitution, So anyway, we sued the government because they were trying to, take the land, and we won after 4 years. So we had to legalize our name, so then legalize it to Warrior Woman, legalize it, and stuff like that. So in case we won this lawsuit, but it was big money. I mean, they even killed a senator trying to land somewhere in Minnesota, and they destroyed the whole plane. The plane crashed before it could go into. Those kind of stuffs were happening. They still happen, but it's just like nobody really sees it or wants to see it,
I heard you say something in the room when you got up to speak. You said the nation no longer brought you in for dinner because
after every event.
Because you chose to go and support
Yeah.
Dr. Khalid. How did you feel about that? Talk to us about that.
I didn't care because I love Khalid. I love what he was doing. I'd support him any way I could, you know. And so it was a game me and him played, you know, because what he says was bad, but Warrior Woman would be worse to see. So, you know, people would look, oh, he's not that bad because she's crazy, you know. So anyway, it's. What was the question? I forgot.
How did you feel about? You said that.
Juanetta,
the Nation of Islam,
the one, the Indian girl
no
lady.
longer brought you in for dinner. Or
Yeah,
like
she
that.
came to tell us that we weren't allowed to go to dinner because after any of the events that they invited us, we'd all go and have dinner with Farrakhan, the minister, and he sent word to her to tell us that we, at the anniversary of the Million Man March, because I had just won a lawsuit for something else, for the IUDs where they put on the women. So I was going to pay my own way to the Million Man March, but they didn't invite me, you know. There's this jealousy, I think, you know, of competition.
You mean the Million? The Million Man March, right?
Yeah, the Million Man. But I did go to the anniversary of the Million Man March, and that's when they let Khalid talk, you know. But there was still that standoffish stuff.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So when they took him out of the nation, they were bombing Libya. My husband had just left Libya, and Farrakhan was still in Libya when they bombed, and so they didn't know, the nation didn't know if he was killed or not, and that's why he took that step. As revolutionaries, if you take that step, there's no turning back. You know what I mean? There's no stepping back. It's forward, always.
Yes.
So.
All right, hold on. We good. Is there anything else you would like to say? I'm going to get a picture with the warrior before you. I don't know if you want a picture.
I would like that. You know, I do want to say, first off, thank you for taking the time to do this with us. And I'm hoping that when people watch this, more people will realize that there are Native American people who are working with Black people in America. Because a lot of our people don't. They actually, there's so many people that think, oh, they hate us. They haven't really realized that we're on the same path and the same struggle. Can you just close out with that?
No, don't close out with that.
To talk to people? Oh.
Don't close out with that, because I got another question just came to me.
Oh, okay.
Religion, in terms of religion, back up a little bit. Yeah, but that we sort of close out, so we don't want her to close out.
After.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
In terms of religion, I hear Hebrew Israelite groups out there saying things like the Native Americans are Hebrew Israelite. What would you say your religion was growing up? Or if you had one, what was your way of life?
It's a spirituality. It's Mother Earth and Grandfather, you know, the universe.
Not no religion like Hebrew
No,
Israelites.
because our role is to protect all natural creation, the wind, the water, the animals and stuff, to live close. There's a lot of similarities in a lot of that stuff. I know they wanted to, when we went overseas, they were saying, oh, the 13 colony, or what was it, 13 countries, or what was it?
You mean the nations in Israel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
12
the 12,
nations.
yeah, and that we were one of the missing ones, you know, and
Yes.
stuff, so.
There is a lot. Okay, now I just want to close up because there is a lot of there are a lot of people saying. I hear Mormons saying that the natives are the lost 10 tribes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
So you don't.
No, because we are getting the history from our elders. Our elders are traditional people that still know the language, the ceremonies, and we're trying to follow the way of life. So there is no lie. That's why I say your heart, your mind come together, and whatever your voice is the truth, because you're not going to teach your baby a lie, because when that baby grows up, he's going to turn against you, you know. So you have to talk the truth. You have to speak the truth, and the spirituality is the elders are the ones that are teaching. So you can't have no fake elders, and there can't be elders that are 60 or 70. Those are just people that are old with no knowledge, you know.
Right.
because they're not telling you that the system isn't ours or to even be a part of it. Through Kwame learning, the system and racism and Zionism, it's not cowboys and Indians, Zionists and indigenous now, so we have to move up with the level so people can understand, but we have to go back now 30 years when Panther, or 40 years that he's been in prison, because people aren't even talking about him. And they went through a whole list of all these important people, senators, movie stars, everything, to sign a paper. Then they got the right number. When they give it to the president, they said no. So I have another thing that I want to work at, is that we found out where Biden lives. And one of our friends, well, it's a white guy, and I didn't really want to talk to him when Biden was vice president. So he says no, that the uncle's related or best friends with Biden. So I want to go physically to tell him to his face, to free him, because I know he's put a couple of Indian people in position. Well, I don't want to go through that. I want to go straight to him and talk to him. And then I found out in the news that he goes home every weekend because he doesn't like sleeping in the White House.
So, we're going to thank you once again. I'm thanking you.
Thank you.
Your time is precious. A warrior woman, would you address the people and just drive it home that we're uniting the Native American people, the struggle that you do with the Black Panthers? Can you let the people know that there is a force, a united force? Can you close out with that?
Kwame Ture had told us that we have to take care of the youth and to talk to the youth that there is a unity, and that's what my youth conference for 30 years there in the land, was to talk about this unity. We had connections with even the guerrilla family. When Panther got beaten up at this other prison that he was at, we didn't know who it was, so we called into the Black community in there, and they told us no, it was the Indian people who jumped him because they didn't want him to get any favors, Then another time, the brown community or the Black community said that in Chino, California, they brought these Black brothers and they stripped them naked in front of the brown people, the brown men that were wearing clothes, to hate them. And so there was like they wanted to start that war, because they always want to start a war. But our elders have told us about the prophecy is that the Black people will fight with the white people, the Black and the white, but the Indians are supposed to go up to the mountains. Well, we're already in the mountains, and stuff like that. And Farrakhan keeps talking about separation. Well, separate, go build that land that you came, because we went into the land and he got that idea of the farming and stuff, but they got money, they can do things like that, It's like, okay, I have my plan that I'm in, I don't know, I'm going to go to Libya. And I went. You know what I mean? This is do for self, because some of the people, they want to help us, but they're not allowed to.
Really?
Yeah, that's how deep it goes.
Well, one more time, let the people know the name. It's not Red Wind anymore. What is the name of your land?
Oh, it's called Oyate, which is means the people's land, the people's nation, and it's just for people of color and sane mind. And it's no white people allowed. They says if we have Black and white or brown or white or red or white married together, we'll give them Halloween, the day of Halloween. They can come in. Nobody's ever come.
Well, thank you so much, warrior woman. Thank you.